But even then, he says a pipeline, but only when and if we can reach a national consensus on a new pipeline. So we already know that Quebec has said they would sooner sign on to the 82 Constitution than to allow filthy Alberta oil to flow encased in steel through Quebec to the Maritimes. So, Quebec's never going to agree to a new pipeline. So how are they going to, how are they going to agree? How are they going to reach a national consensus when the only two provinces that count, as far as Carney's concerned, from a consensus building perspective, Ontario and Quebec, where Quebec is vehemently opposed to a new pipeline, and Ontario is at best ambivalent, right? So it's like I've been laughing. I've been calling it the court, Danielle Smith's courtship of Mark Carney, kind of like that old program, The Courtship of Eddie's Father, right? So Danielle Smith is giving 6 months to have this courtship with Mark Carney, where she can see whether she can use her feminine wiles to convince Mark Carney that he should, be nicer to Alberta and stop punching us in the face like an abusive spouse. And she's hoping that Mark Carney is going to show up in Alberta on bended knee with a big box of chocolates and offer her candy in the form of pipeline corridors and all the rest of it. But I mean, he's not even ready to come to Alberta with a box of chocolates. He's coming to Alberta to say, well, maybe in 3 or 4 years, if you're really good and provided I can come up with a national consensus, I might let you have one chocolate, right?
Right.
It's ridiculous. I mean, and they think that anything that Carney has to say or do, right? His little, whatever little gifts that Danielle can negotiate from Carney in their 6-month courtship is going to exceed the value of ending all federal income tax, GST, carbon tax, excise tax on fuel, capital gains tax, corporate tax, etc. It's ludicrous, right? There is no way from a value perspective, right, that the value to Albertans, right, the monetary value and each individual Alberta family, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, ethnicity, gender. I guess we have to worry about the gender of families now because there might be 5 or 6 of them. I don't know. But, whatever it is, everybody understands one thing, which is how much money do you have in your bank account at the end of the year? And, and let's imagine. So I was talking to one, young police officer who, was probably, I'm just surmising, but probably single. He looked pretty, too young demographically to be married at this stage of life. But imagine, that he's a young police officer. He's saving $20,000 on his taxes, and he's married to another lovely young police officer, whatever gender he chooses. And she or he saves another $20,000 a year on their taxes. So for that family unit, right, their savings is going to be $40,000 a year. I mean, that's real money, and if you're, maybe you're a bit older, or maybe that's the demographic he's in as well. If you're trying to take care of aging parents, who are struggling, that's $40,000 a year extra that you can use to help take care of your mom and dad. That's $40,000 a year that you can put into your kids' education. Maybe you think, hey, it's like, $40,000 a year. Maybe I will take my kid down to that tennis camp, basketball camp, hockey camp, whatever in Arizona or Florida or whatever, because our family, can now afford it. And we can make those types of choices for ourselves because we have an extra $40,000 a year in our bank account, as opposed to what most Alberta families are doing now, which is, oh my God, we can't afford to have kids. We're barely making it ourselves after all the taxes were taken away and the cost of living. Every time we turn around, we're getting hit with another tax.